And if you're doing the right things across that broad portfolio, you'll have more winners than you'll have losers. They will beat your underperformance.
Things take longer to work out than you think often, Chris, as well. That's another other big.
The market's there to take money off of impatient people and give it to patient people, and it's so true. To identify major sectors that are probable to move in the right fashion, and then diversify across those particular sectors. And that's broadly what we do. It works. For anyone who's been with us for any period of time, you'll know that it works. But while it's working, there are things that happen like Jinma, whereby it just doesn't work out and your 1% position goes away, or it gets halved, or whatever the case might be. That doesn't change your overall, negatively impact your overall portfolio, and that's really what matters. It's easy to get excited about some like this. Oh wow, great, we're up 60%. Yep, happy days. But don't get too excited. It's part of a broader portfolio, and if you're doing the right things across that broad portfolio, you'll have more winners than you'll have losers, and your winners will beat your underperformance in general.
Things take longer to work out than you think often, Chris, as well. That's another other big.
Often they do. And then, it comes back to what Warren Buffett said. He said the market's there to take money off of impatient people and give it to patient people. And it's so true. Okay. I would love to hear your thoughts regarding a Biden win over a Trump win in November. Are there any swings you expect to see depending on who wins? And if so, where do you see the biggest swings? Rudy. Which administration, Trump or Biden, will be best for the portfolio? John. Okay, so a couple of things. First, just a reminder, we're not traders. We're not making or changing the portfolio as a consequence of who may or may not win in November. And I think now a November win to Biden is almost zero probability. Nevertheless, if you're looking at this as we do, 3 to 5 year time frame, there is nothing that either of these participants are going to do or have the ability to do that's going to change some structural major issues. The US has got a $28 trillion debt due, and the interest component on that now is the largest component of all spending, including military. That is, while interest rates are still relatively low, none of these parties are going to address that issue, and that issue can't easily be addressed. Keep that in mind, and then you say, well, what is the outcome on a going forward basis? The outcome largely is a stagflationary environment. It's an environment where rates have to go higher for structural reasons, which means that the cost of capital is higher. It also means that inflation starts punching through. So really, our portfolio is already structured and set up for that scenario. And again, neither Trump or Biden are going to change any of those dynamics. It's not going to happen. So I don't think
it's entertaining, Chris, especially from
better than anything Hollywood can produce.
From looking at cheapest, it's entertaining.
Shifting from equity to credit. So here's a question from Path. In the recent Howard Marks newsletter, he made a case to shift partial allocation from equity to credit due to high return from the bond credit investments. One of the funds recommended is the iShares USD High Yield Corporate Bond ETF. Do you guys agree with this partial reallocation from equity to credit? And do you have a perspective on the High Yield Corporate Bond ETF as a diversification strategy? Thanks for all you do. Look, again, coming back to what we talk about here, we're long-term investors. Our long-term multi-year view is that bonds are a dangerous place to be. We've just referenced the US fiscal situation, which is problematic to say the least. And where US sovereign bond markets go, so goes pretty much every bond market in the world, okay? And then if you took, even if that was not the case, which it broadly is, even if you looked at the next largest bond markets, they're all in deep, deep shit. So we don't like bonds broadly. It doesn't make sense for us. We do have a strategy to deal with that, insofar as if you're looking for an income, which is really what you're trying to do with bonds. There's two things that you do with bonds. One is you want to have principal secured, and the other one is to get an income. Our answer to that is our dividend income portfolio, and we'll give you a little sneak sort of preview into what that's looked like since we implemented it and how it's fared against yields. Or bond ETFs, or any bonds. What do we got here, Brad?
And reading that question, when you read it out, I thought, client is referring to the high yield bond ETF, probably like HYG. I didn't pick it up. I thought it was referring to like the broad bond market, which is like AGG, the ETF AGG. Anyway, this is the ETF AGG, which is the broad bond market ETF. Orange line, that is the total return of the bond market. All the dividends or interest payments that will come as per a dividend in the ETF, that gets added back into it. Now, at the moment, so you can see that's obviously gone down since 2021. The interest rate, the yield there is about 3.5% plus or minus. If I was to include the ETF HYG, the dividend yield there is about 6%, and it's pretty much on par with where it was in 2021 in terms of total return. So I do apologize. We probably should have had the high yield ETF up there instead, but it still hasn't done anything. It's still not that attractive,